the people who are gonna be the leaders are people who know how to use their brains
Mhm.
and know how to interact human to human,
Mhm.
because we
Mm.
still need that human to human
Mhm.
is a big, big piece of it. So that's my concern, um, going forward.
DJ Savvy. Nicole DeAvilla is an international best-selling author and strategist for conscious entrepreneurs who want to lead with clarity, strength, and heart in turbulent times. She believes the future belongs to leaders who can shape industries and culture without becoming hardened by it. Leadership that's deeply resourced, rooted in strong foundations, clean energy, clear boundaries, and aligned action. Nicole's work sits at the intersection of modern science and technology, including AI, behavior change, and the enduring wisdom traditions of yoga and Ayurveda. Her focus is simple and radical. If we have the knowledge and tools to live longer, healthier, and more purposeful lives, why aren't we living that way and at scale? Through her programs and conversations, Nicole helps entrepreneurs build the inner and outer infrastructure to ride disruption rather than get knocked down by it, so their success becomes a stabilizing force for others. Hi, Nicole. Thank you so much for being here on the podcast. I'm so excited to have you.
Well, thank you, Samantha. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so usually the way I like to do these podcasts is to start out with your origin story, and so that you can kind of tell the audience how you came to be doing the work that you are doing today.
I think I'll start there. I was, in pain when I, graduated from college. I had pain radiating down my neck, down my legs, couldn't turn my head. Um, I was a dancer, I'd done yoga before and, was an athlete. So it was really, besides the debilitating pain, was not a place I was used to being in. And a sense that if I got into yoga and I did more yoga and got back into that, that would help me. And this was back in the days when there were we didn't have the computers, and literally, I had gotten on a mailing list, and I got this flyer in the mail about a yoga teacher training, and I just looked at that flyer and thought, "This is my ticket. This is my ticket out of pain." It just I wasn't saying, "I wanna be a yoga teacher." It just felt like my ticket out of pain, which it was as part of my, uh, journey, and it was one of those things that, kinda unexplained. I did the training. So much of it was new, and I just, remained open to what was going on and started teaching yoga out of my living room the day after I graduated. Now, this was back in the early '80s, so it was actually it's so regular here, especially I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, there's like a
Mhm.
yoga studio on every corner. But back then, I remember I'd go to a networking meeting and I would say, "I have a yoga studio," and people would go like, "What? A yogurt studio?" Back in the '80s when soft serve yoga was a thing. So, I was, on the cutting edge of saying, having a studio, teaching the classes, and so right away, seemed like because of the interest of it too, I was, training yoga teachers as well.
Mhm.
And so that was part of my journey. Another part of it is research. I've always and writing books. And so I also part of this time had a job as a research assistant at the Center for Sports Medicine. And that's when I began publishing PubMed, which is sort of the highest level for medical type research publications. So I got to start that journey. Soon I was being invited to teach in programs. So I've developed prenatal yoga teacher trainings and the books. And I was actually on the first prenatal yoga um, teacher training committee at Yoga Alliance that defined, well, what should the minimum training be? So I've
Mhm.
often found myself on the cutting edge of what's happening, what's next. I was also then because right from day one, I was using yoga therapeutically. So as you
Mhm.
can imagine, I started attracting people to me that also needed to use it therapeutically. And so I learned and studied. I worked at a chiropractic office teaching posture and alignment and exercises. I, was did the work at the Center for Sports Medicine, so learned a lot there as well as deepening my yoga learning and practices and teaching. So I was already doing that kind of yoga therapy before it became a word, and was teaching therapeutic uses of yoga and so forth. And so I was also on the first accreditation committee that once we finalize what the definitions were, the minimum training that a yoga therapist should have, which I'll just pause here for a moment because to be a yoga therapist, you need first to be a yoga teacher, and that
Mm.
minimum requirement is about 200 hours.
Mhm.
So to be a yoga therapist, you need to have been a yoga teacher for 2 years and then additional at least 800 hours. And it's more medical training as well as going deeper in many of the practices, just to
Mhm.
give people an idea what we're talking about. So again, I find myself at those cutting edges when I did my first book in 2012, The 2 Minute Yoga Solution, Fast and Easy Stress and Back Pain Relief for Anyone at Any Time. Um, Social media was brand new,
Mhm.
and my publisher, got me in with the Ricky Lake Show, and I started being involved with them on, Twitter. We'd run Twitter chats, and I was one of the, like, invited people to be there in the studio during their first showing and several other ones, and we were it's so normal now, but we were literally the first people who were invited onto, TV studios grounds with our phones and our computers. Usually you have to check those in. And they
Mhm.
said, bring it on and we'll bring charging cords for you because we want you to live tweet, live post, about this event, about this show and what's going on. Ricky Lake was a real forerunner in that. And like say now it's like a ticker tape, on, Twitter or on,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
it's,
yeah.
it's just, it's been normalized. But was, in the beginning, with that. So and then because of my being out and people seeing me, people started asking me, Nicole, can you show me how to do this? Whether it was the other authors and the author groups I was joining or yoga professionals or, just all the people that one meets, right,
Mhm.
in their sphere. And so I was kind of more ad hoc teaching, make Instagram work for you, or here's, social media 101, here's, running your business. And then I also was coaching clients. And I found that my coaching often people usually come to me because for financial reasons, like I want to grow my business,
Mhm.
but they tend to stay because I see them and treat them as a whole person.
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, well, maybe somebody said that was the best practice, but given your constitution, your personal circumstances, is that going to burn you out? Maybe we don't do it that way. Maybe we
Mhm.
find your best practice, not
Mhm.
somebody else's best practice. So that developed until now I have Make Your Business Work for You, a whole program and different offerings and teachings. So when AI came around, I was the first one to raise my hand, and took a certification course in AI as well. So I'm not my a tech person by it's not my career or anything, but I've always been techie as we could say, and just dive
Mhm.
right in and do things. And then in the meantime, my physical body, yoga made it so I could move my body. I could was doing so much better and I got more focused in on diet, but I still had some pain. And then I started learning about essential oils and supplements, and finally natural bioactive precision peptides. So that I remember this was several years ago, but running down the stairs one time and just stopping and going, like, oh my gosh, there's no pain in my knees.
Mhm.
Like, it was just sort of like this mind-blowing moment for me because I just had for so many years lived with pain, which
Mhm.
if you're athletes can relate to that too. They're always like at least feeling sore muscles or something, but I had this chronic pain. So that's been my journey. So really now moving into the longevity sphere, which yoga is the original longevity practices. And now
Mhm.
we have so much between what we're artificial intelligence is helping in this area, scientific research, a lot of interest around longevity. And it excites me because what you do to live a longer, healthier life, nobody's talking here about just living in a wheelchair longer, right? But
Mhm.
really be active and mentally sharp and healthy for a longer time. That, at the end of the day, it's what you do today will make you feel healthier and happier and more present are the same things that will help you in the long run.
Mhm.
And we're not talking about the sugar high or the, the little temporary things, but what's gonna day in and day out make you feel healthier and happier, more on purpose and, alive are the same practices that are gonna give you that longer, healthier, more satisfying life.
Mhm.
So I'm really into looking at that intersection of how AI, how the scientific research, technology, and how the ancient practices, yoga,
Mhm.
Ayurveda, and then bringing in in the behavioral sciences because we know so much between the yoga, between the current science that we have, we know how to be healthier. It's like
Mhm.
I think it's the top 7 diseases that people die from worldwide, but, definitely here in the United States where I'm from, um, are lifestyle diseases.
Mhm.
And we have answers to lifestyle diseases, but we don't have the support. We don't have the cultural support, the expectations, and the knowledge isn't as widespread as it should be. So
Mhm.
that's one of my places I'm really interested in is how do we move that needle forward? And then another topic just I'll touch on here, and we can get into it more in depth if you'd like to, as our conversation evolves, is we are going through a rocky time.
Mhm.
No matter how you look at it, what you think about it, it's lots of disruption is happening right now, and it's not all pretty. And what I learned is that this time has been predicted by different religions, by astrology, by the newer system of human design, that during this period was going to be a disruptive time. And the light at the end of the tunnel gives us hope. So they also said that it is that we're moving towards a better time, that a lot of the old ways that no longer serve us, the structures, the dogmatism, the things that I'll just say for now, that no longer serve us societally, culturally,
Mhm.
those are being let go of. But those who are still attached to that energy or really invested in those structures are fighting to stay relevant.
Mhm.
And so as the new energy comes in and it kind of, and people might not even in their own life understand or see it that way, but when you step back for the bigger picture, that's
Mhm.
a lot of what's going on. And so I also really want to help
Mhm.
leaders, healers, people who are speakers, people who or even business leaders or community leaders at the PTA, whatever type of leader or, founders, billion-dollar businesses, the more that they are resourced themselves, the more that they have whatever their values are, call it their spiritual values, their mission-based values, whatever, however they're more grounded in that, grounded in a healthy body and mind and
Mhm.
nervous system. In other words, all the pillars. Do they have good relationships? Are they able to have that, which are, in a sense, all the pillars of longevity? I also believe can be the pillars of success in business because if you look at research, if you're materially successful, you're more likely to be healthy too. So that is one of the pillars is material success. So that we need to develop ourselves and develop, and I'm here to support leaders who want to be in that balanced position so that we can lead with light, that we can lead with
Mhm.
love, that we can lead with power and help shape the new future that's evolving.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
so that's how I got to here, I think,
That's
in a
a
nutshell.
wow, that's quite a journey.
Yeah. Well,
That
it's been over 40 years, so
yeah, wow. So, I mean, I've been taking notes. So, yeah. So, there are a few things that we can talk about. I guess, going chronologically, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about was you said that you were published in PubMed. Is that correct?
yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
So, and what was that publication about, or what was the study about?
Okay, right. So PubMed is think of it as like the clearinghouse. Like if you do a Google Scholar, not just a Google search,
Mhm.
and look for it's medically published research that has reached a certain bar, and it's not the individual research, but
Mhm.
the one that's publishing it. So, for example, my first one was the American Journal of Sports Medicine.
Mhm.
So they had to already be in business producing research articles and meet a certain standard
Mhm.
of that is it peer reviewed, do you have outside influences, how are the
Mhm.
articles checked, is it so it's not just opinion, you know
Mhm.
pretending to be medical advice, but was the research quality research, and was it written and presented in an ethical and
Mhm.
quality way.
Mhm.
So, s so that's what the PubMed is. So it's the mainly the American Journal of Sports Medicine, and I
Mhm.
was actually in the first one of my articles was the first approved PubMed approved one in the International Journal of Yoga Therapy.
Okay.
So I've published there as well.
Okay. And so
And
what were you
presented
looking
at
at?
conferences.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what were you looking at in the studies though? Like what was it about?
Right, so most of those were musculoskeletal related.
Mhm.
Not surprisingly, I started out with musculoskeletal
Mhm.
issues, right? And so that was one of my specialties. Another one was I had worked with a group of people with adult acquired brain injuries,
Mhm.
and often people with adult acquired brain injuries die from not from the brain because they survived whatever the brain injury was, but it's a respiratory disease.
Mhm.
There's a whole scientific, medical pathway of understanding that. And that the yoga, and in particular, the yoga breathing that we were offering this group at a center, the staff started noticing first was like, wow, nobody in the yoga group is getting sick this winter. We are.
Oh.
People who aren't in the yoga group are. So I got a colleague from Harvard to help us, and we did a study to show that it helped with respiratory health to do yoga.
Mhm.
Other things I have is like on the knee. We also that the sports medicine center. It was a more general one where we
Mhm.
were looking at recreational athletes and their injuries and whether or not their shoes or what were the different factors that might cause
Mhm.
injuries, and also we did injury rates for recreational,
Mhm.
um, activities, and yoga came in with a very low injury rate, I'm happy to say.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I guess my question is kind of revolving around how was it to publish something about like yoga and how yoga can benefit you in a medical way when it comes to publishing that in like a scientific journal where a lot of the predominating idea, I guess, is oh they're in chronic pain, like give them a pill kind of thing. And so I'm wondering if you had any experiences of like pushback in regard to the results of your study or the efficacy or things like that because I'm like I also have some chronic pain issues with my particularly with my spine, and so like I really try not to take medication if I don't have to. So I'm wondering like if you had any experiences with that side of things.
Right, yeah, so for example, to be in one of these publications, you have the editor, first of all, is taking their first swipe at what you're doing and
Mhm.
making, their opinions known and asking maybe to make changes or to clarify. And I know I had, at least one or more, medical doctors looking at my paper, and they did push back on one of the, uh, asanas, the yoga position that I was
Mhm.
had included in that, and so the editor, it was great. She didn't just say, like, "Take it out, that piece of it, or, change it or something." I was able to argue and explain why in a very articulate way, and
Mhm.
she was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense, leave it in."
Mhm.
So, yeah, so if you're really solid with what and understand what worked, what I see is a lot of, like, yoga professionals might be like, "I cured my own elbow and my best friend's," or, one other person or
Mhm.
something. Let's
Mhm.
do, and I have done, case study reports, but that's, very, very different too, to do the one-on-one, but there's a way of documenting of, that a person needs to learn how you document it, how you, talk so that you're not showing a foregone conclusion bias, for
Mhm.
example.
Mhm.
So a lot of it is understanding how to structure the research in the first place, because
Mhm.
that's sometimes where designs fall apart, is that they're structured so poorly that and I've seen things too. It's sort of like there was no control, or they were just literally, I heard somebody say, well, we did not everybody in our study responded at the end of the study. So we think our intervention was great and they felt so good they didn't, um, have any problems. Those people could have died.
Yeah.
We don't know, right?
Yeah.
So, so there's just that's an extreme example, but you can imagine it being, more kind of detailed, so that people who do this kind of work all the time, they understand what a tight study will look like.
Mhm.
And with yoga, it's the research is really growing, but in and I think it's in the past. I think this was part of the change in the past and a little bit in the future, right in the current time. The medical profession, as many professions are, changes slowly, and they need to
Mhm.
have, it's not, it's like, okay, that was a good research study, but can somebody replicate it?
Mhm.
Again, how large are the numbers? How well was the design? And it can take a lot of time for these changes to occur at the level of a doctor giving advice, for example,
Mhm.
um, that sort of thing, or even the drugs tend to happen faster because they got the whole PR machine
Mhm.
too. They're
Yeah.
going into the doctor's offices and they're educating and they're advertising and they're promoting, etcetera. So that's why you might think, well, some things happen quickly,
Yeah.
but that could be the why.
Yeah, well, and I think, I don't know if it works the same way in Canada, but my understanding of how it works in the US is that doctors get a commission on every prescription that they gets filled under their name. And so there's almost like an incentive to prescribe in that sense. So, yeah, I don't think you can get a
Yeah.
commission for prescribing yoga therapy.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, I hadn't heard that particular thing, but I do know that they go and they give samples. They'll be like, "Hey,
Uh-huh.
we'll fly you to, Tahiti, or, some island,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
Hawaii, and give you an in-service and some
Yeah.
education for you, and you can bring your family." Um,
Yeah.
so they're definitely giving the doctors perks, shall we
Yeah,
say,
and
even if it is.
incentives. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know that's not a legal incentive, and if, just even, like, supplements that are, like, what a and it's state by state, the regulation. So,
Mhm.
like, for example, chiropractors kind of across the board can recommend supplements, and you can buy them directly from your chiropractor. And
Mhm.
if you're buying them in the office, they're making
Yeah, they're
some money,
making a cut.
and that's,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
I'm fine,
Yeah.
but you don't want it to be like, "Hey, go to the
Yeah.
pharmacy and,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna make something," you don't want that, and then it's state by state, so that, like, a if a doctor refers, and maybe could make a commission,
Mhm.
it is a state by state thing, but they have to, tell the patient that, um You can buy it from me, I'll make a commission from it, or you can buy it elsewhere. Whatever you choose to do won't affect your care.
Mhm. Yeah,
And then
I
some
know.
states just say, "No, you
Yeah.
can't do that."
Yeah, I know in Canada, the drug companies aren't allowed to offer those kinds of perks to docs
Yeah,
anymore, so they outlawed that quite a number of years ago already, so but yeah.
yeah,
Um, just continuing to move on chronologically, so we you had talked about, regular yoga versus therapeutic yoga. And so I wanted to talk about like kind of what the differences between those are for people who are maybe trying to treat chronic pain. Like I go to yoga fairly regularly. For me, it's like my form of physical activity, but I feel like it also helps me like ground myself a little and like get more in my body and more centered. So what is the difference though between like yoga that someone might go to a regular yoga class versus like therapeutic yoga?
right, right. So the benefits that you are describing, um, hopefully everybody feels, if they go to a good class, the good teacher. And I'll just insert here, there's so many different types of yoga. So if anybody's
Mhm.
gone to a yoga class and said, that's too fast, that's too slow, that's too whatever, go,
Mhm.
try to find a good teacher and try different styles because there's something for everybody. So and general yoga in itself is therapeutic.
Mhm.
So as you said, so not it was helping you. If I just kind of extract this, like mentally, emotionally, and physically,
Mhm.
you feel better after your yoga class,
Mhm.
and that should be the case. Um, and then where yoga therapy comes in is when you need something more or when any yoga class would be too much or counterindicated for your particular situation. So a yoga therapist does a history and an intake, just like any medical professional you go to. They want to, did you have any surgeries? What was the onset? What do you have going on? Why are you here today? It's the back pain, but oh yeah, I also have this, that, and the other thing going on. And, I'm do you have medications that make you feel wobbly?
Mhm.
All those things. So we do a detailed, so it's more medical in that sense. We do a more detailed intake. And then we use the knowledge that we have of yoga, Ayurveda, and we look at research that's either directly yoga. There's some, I would say if there's not research on something, it doesn't mean it doesn't work. There just hasn't been enough time to
Mhm.
show all the things, but we do look at what does work. We might also look at what, it's like, what did you have your physical therapist do? And what did you find helpful or not helpful when you did that?
Mhm.
We look at alignment. We look at how a person breathes, their respiratory rate, for example. Is it really tight up here? Are they breathing deep and full in their body?
Mhm.
So we do a really thorough evaluation. We don't diagnose, but we do a thorough evaluation, and then we work with the client to come up with a plan, an intervention plan. So for example, I could interview somebody, do my assessments. They're like, okay, I'd like you to get up in the morning at this time and do X, Y, Z, and then do this and that. And the person's like, I'm not a morning person. So we learn that, and we kind of find out what's going to work for them. We try a few things while we're together. I work both online. Like I said, I've been doing it for 40 years, so
Mhm.
I can tell probably a lot more than the average person on a Zoom, but also, in person. And we'll say like, well, let's try this. And then how does that feel? And this is what I always train my yoga therapists that I train. I say, um, have them do something and don't just say, how was that? Because if people will usually go, fine, you know, right? We're always saying, how are you? Fine. And I say,
Mhm.
especially if it kind of goes up like that, it's like, it's not fine. They're just
Mhm.
trying to please you or they don't
Yeah.
want to get into it. It's a habit to just go, "Oh, I'm fine." So I say, ask them, "Does it feel better, worse, the same?" If they pause, or just different, so
Mhm.
that we find out and also when they, uh, whether it's like a breathing exercise or they tensing up with every breath, so it's not always a physical posture, but if it is, we make sure the alignment's right because you can have the best intervention from your physical therapist, from your yoga therapist. But if your knees locked, and not everybody sees that or even looks for it, then maybe your knee injury is never going to heal because you keep locking it whenever you
Mhm.
stay there. So we look for those more detailed things. And as I say, if you can breathe, if you can control your breath and you can take instructions, you can be on a bed and have a yoga intervention.
Mhm.
So in other words, it's not, you may or may not get the traditional yoga postures, let alone the flows,
Mhm.
when you see someone. It's that individualized.
So is it kind of like physiotherapy then, or is it still like the postures are still yoga asana based?
They're yoga asana based, and I'm seeing more and more physiotherapy that borrows from the yoga
Yeah.
postures. So,
Okay.
as well as we've borrowed from them. So there's a gray area of like which, where did it actually come from?
Mhm.
And just some things just kind of make sense that you would do that.
Mhm.
Like certain back positions, we call the cobra pose.
Mhm.
They learn that the back bending is helpful
Mhm.
to do
Mhm.
that. Whereas other back positions, it's the opposite. They need to do
Mhm.
something different.
Mhm.
So again, depending on what it is a person has, it may be, uh, it may seem very similar to that.
Mhm.
But we also, like I say, we also look at, some of the questions is like, when does it flare up? It's like, oh, when I've had a stressful day, when I've sat all day in the office, or those things like that. So we're also picking up lifestyle cues. And so
Mhm.
this is again, PT will is kind of like I'll show you how to get in and out of your car safely, or there's the occupational therapy, this how to brush your teeth and not flare your elbow up.
Mhm.
Um, but we really look at kind of the whole picture of like what's a contributing factor. So it
Mhm.
may have been your daily habits wasn't the cause of it, but they
Mhm.
may be preventing you from healing all the way. So we
Mhm.
might give suggestions for what you do at work so you're able to stay productive and
Mhm.
focused, but also get some movement in your body so you're not just sitting the whole day and then getting up and going, oh no, this
Yeah.
is awful.
Yeah.
So we're lifestyle experts is what I like to say.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
help with those levels too.
Um, and just so that the audience knows, what is Ayurveda? Because we've referenced it a couple
Oh,
of times, but
yes. Thank you for having me come back. So Ayurveda is like a sister science to yoga. It's
Mhm.
the traditional medical science that comes from India.
Mhm.
So they do assessments. It's some again overlap, but they do some other things. They work a lot with herbs, for
Mhm.
example,
Mhm.
remedies, focus on diet, and take pulses and check the eyes and,
Mhm.
different things like that.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
so thank you for
Yeah.
asking. Yeah.
No, because you know what? I've learned about it, but it's one of those things that you can just never remember. And I'm like, what is that again? So it's
Yes,
for my
I've
own
heard that
benefit.
before.
I've heard
Yeah.
it before, but it's for my own benefit as well. So,
Right, right.
um, So I'm just looking at my notes here, and I know this is a not necessarily exactly chronicle chronological, but I think it flows in well as because you also talked about going into the longevity not sphere. And so, how does yoga and Ayurveda relate to longevity and the work that you do there?
Right, right. So I started following a lot of the research about what helps to be, a longer life. And
Mm-hmm.
so, for example, and I may have the number off, but I think it is if you can stand on one leg, both your right and your left, for at least 10 seconds, that means you're more likely to live 3 years longer than somebody who can't.
How?
So so it's like, okay, so when you come to my longevity sessions, we're
Mm-hmm.
going to do some kind of something that challenges your balance.
Mm-hmm.
And for people who can't yet stand on one leg, that's where yoga therapy comes in. We have other
Mm-hmm.
ways to challenge your balance safely until
Mm-hmm.
you can. So you can build up and work up to it. So
Uh-huh.
that's an example. Um, Inflammation. So we are not dietitians, but we are able to talk to people about basic kind of a yogic diet, which
Mhm.
is more plant based
Uh-huh.
and whole foods. And
Uh-huh.
even with the Ayurveda, they say certain constitutions shouldn't be all raw. Some people, more raw foods better. Other people, more cooked is better for the digestion.
Uh-huh.
So like I said, well, I can't, prescribe a specific diet, but I can help people. Let's try to get the sodas and the chips out of the diet. Let's try to get,
Uh-huh.
let's try to go to a more food based, healthier diet. And are you drinking enough water and things like that? So, and I bring that up because inflammation is a marker for a lot of diseases and a lot of the lifestyle diseases, heart
Mhm.
disease, diabetes, joint pain, arthritis, etc. So really talking to people about how to get inflammation down, both
Mhm.
through, again, in a very general way, of general triggers in our system. Then I might talk about diet,
Uh-huh.
and then if it seems to be something somebody's struggling with, or have a sense maybe they have a lot of sensitivities, I will refer them to a dietitian.
Mhm.
So, and that's another thing, is I think yoga therapists are trained also to know when to refer to somebody to a
Mhm.
different medical professional. But also pranayama, which is breathing exercises that emphasize the exhalation. So the exhalation is longer than the inhalation. That can
Mhm.
help to reduce inflammation. And
Mhm.
then I just heard one of the longevity doctors, who's got a book coming out soon. She talked about also that lengthened exhalation helps reduce cortisol, which is
Mm.
part of the whole inflammation trigger and stress as well. And so she also was talking about how having that lengthened exhalation can help with longevity, because it's helping to regulate your hormones and your inflammation levels as well.
Mhm.
So there's just, we could go on and on, but those are just a couple of examples of things that are known to help with longevity. And then some of the things that maybe, well, even like getting better sleep. Um, like I started getting my Aura ring, make sure
Yeah.
I was getting the right quality of sleep. So
Uh-huh.
like if that's an issue for somebody, maybe I'll say like, well, maybe you need to, take some appropriate supplements, or, track it and see if when you at least get that enough hours, um, or if you have fatigue and we just don't know why, go to a doctor, get a blood test. There could be a lot
Yeah.
of different reasons for it. So I,
Mhm.
will refer people as well. So I just, try to go through and check off all the boxes, because like I say, there's a lot of them. Let's strengthen our hand grip strength. That
Mhm.
let's do the breathing,
Mhm.
that are not hard.
Mhm. Yeah, and I
Right.
think that's one thing that like we were talking about longevity, but also like the prominence of lifestyle diseases, in the Western world in particular, and how like it's such a interesting conundrum that we're in because, like, we have the highest standard of living, arguably, that humanity's ever had at this point in time, and yet, people, I wouldn't say that they're living longer, they're actually, like, dying longer, and so,
Yeah, yeah.
so it's like even though the age is longer, we're not necessarily able to live full lives up until the age of, 100 or however old we're going to live. And so I think it's so interesting, again, kind of going back to like alternative practices versus like standard Western practices is like, oh, you have inflammation, I'm going to give you a pill for that. Oh, you have pain, I'm going to give you a pill for that. Oh, you have gastric distress, I'm going to give you a pill for that. Versus how are you living your life, and is that actually going to optimize your health, right? And so many people don't necessarily see Like it's February, right? So we just started the new year. Lots of people, they have like New Year's resolutions where I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. The yoga studio is always busy in January because there's always new people starting, right? And it's kind of like maintaining that lifestyle so that you can maintain your health, and we can kind of connect the dots here with being an effective leader as well, right? Like going into the next topic, right? How to be an effective leader. You can't really be an effective leader if you feel like crap, you're eating crap and putting all of this toxins into your body, and you're in chronic pain. So it kind of all connects.
Exactly. Exactly. And 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 maybe this point will help people who um, are, whatever level. They're just starting a business. They've been doing it for years. And there's always a reason to not be prioritizing your own health. It's like, well,
Mhm.
I'm raising my kids, but now you're not raising your kids. It's like I gotta get my company going. I've got, always these reasons. And ultimately, you're going to make better decisions, be more focused, and grow your business better when you take care of yourself. And I think this is a testament to how important, like, if you're the founder or a key person in a company, um, or you're a solopreneur, that the company called Human Longevity Inc. They were the first to do the whole get all your DNA figured out. They
Mhm.
have an executive program where they people are flown in from all around the world to get diagnostics done. So like they do a whole body MRI, is very
Mhm.
particular type. They do blood tests. They do all different kinds of testing. It's like 5 to 6 hours worth of testing, and I was
Mhm.
there, recently, getting a tour, and it's very beautiful. It's not like a hospital waiting room, like, "I'm
Mhm.
waiting for the next test." You
Yeah,
feel like
yeah,
you're
yeah.
a fancy hotel, right?
Yeah.
And and they're so confident about their ability, so for to because they are saying early detection will also help you live longer.
Mhm.
Um so that also, if you know what your genetic propensity is, like if
Mhm.
you know it has them, like genetically you're more predisposed to, say, heart disease, that can be motivating for you to focus on that. And
Mhm.
somebody else, it could be a different situation. And they said that they're so confident in their ability to detect early cancers, for example, that if they have somebody under their care and they develop stage 4 cancer, they'll give $1,000,000 towards their care.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the point I want, yeah, is that, yeah, they're that confident with the technology they have now. And the point I want to make is they say a lot of companies pay to have their founders, their top CEOs, their top talent get this done. Because
Mhm.
a lot of companies fall apart, don't do as well, crumble, slowly die when the founder, the top executives who really keep everything going and keep the vision strong, when if they're ill,
Mhm.
because maybe even they're just gone for, 6 months to take care of something, an illness or
Mhm.
whatever, they're paying to have this done. And then, of course, they they meet with a doctor and, it's not just like, "Here's your test results," but then,
Mhm.
helped with what to do with that knowledge,
Mhm.
how to do it. So, as I think as a business person, I think we're finally starting to understand that that matters.
Mhm.
And I think it's not historically been that way because historically, either like as you were saying, we didn't live as long because people died of infections like this, or
Mhm.
that different things would happen, and or they'd have an accident, and there wasn't the modern medicine to sew them all up, or whatever it
Mhm.
was. But we didn't. But we were more active with our bodies. We ate foods that weren't processed. We
Mhm.
tended to live more, in community, had more family connections, etc. And so it wasn't something one had to think about like
Mhm.
they do today.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that point, just even looking at the grocery store right now, like 90 per. I mean, I'm making numbers up, but a significant majority of what is in the grocery store, like, didn't even exist 100 years ago. So it's just like the amount of processed food garbage that has been invented and that we put into our bodies is insane, actually, and then we are doing it on a regular basis. um there a friend of mine, actually, just as a little anecdote, a friend of mine just yesterday, I think, sent me a reel, and it was all about, like, how, like, the little Lindt chocolate balls are made, and, it, like, basically, it barely passes the test for being considered chocolate based on the ingredients list, and, like, it's, like, 99%, like, hydrogenated palm oil or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So,
It's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then you think
Yeah, and
about, like.
I've mhm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, to your point, I've heard people say when you go to this grocery store, shop the perimeter, because on the
Mhm,
perimeter, you have your produce section, your fresh dairy section, your meat section, and just
mhm.
skip the middle.
Yeah, that's what I do, honestly. Like, I mean, I rarely go to the grocery store, but when I do, it's always the perimeter. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So, kind of like leading in from that, then from, like, longevity and health, and then leading into, like, leadership and how that affects leadership and, the businesses today and stuff. And so, you're always on the forefront, and right now you're on the forefront of technology and AI. So I wanted to kind of get a better understanding of, your thoughts on that, and, like, how AI is changing, business at such a rapid pace.
Yes. So I think a couple things are going on, and that I think a lot of people don't realize how long AI has been in our lives,
Mhm.
um, and similar technology, the algorithms and the AI. There's kind of that's a close connection there. Um, it is happening fast, and I think people need to become literate to some degree about it, number 1. So, at any age, whether you're a retired senior and trying to live a good life, you don't wanna be, um, frustrated by or fooled by AI, so you
Mhm.
need to have some literacy. Those of
Mhm.
us who are in our working days, um, we need to adopt it and understand it to adopt it optimally.
Mhm.
And because other people are doing that, some people are kinda going down rabbit holes, and who knows if they'll ever come out, um, rabbit holes of like, "Ooh, this thing and that thing and whatever." But I'm
Mhm.
always coming back, up for air 'cause I can do that. I can have fun learning things, but then I'm like, "Okay, end of the day, what's gonna help move me forward in one of my
Mhm.
pillars? Is
Mhm.
this application of AI gonna help me with my health? Is it gonna help me with my business? Is it gonna
Mhm.
help me with, whatever it is, my travel? Uh,
Mhm.
a a and then focus on that which will be meaningful and helpful. And at the same time, understanding it in the bigger context so that, I'm not taken by surprise, about a
Mhm.
lot of things. And I think for young people and people really of any age, I think we need to AI proof our brains.
Mm.
What I'm really concerned about are the young people, just like young people, they have extra thumb joints or something.
Yeah.
They could be on their phones, no problem. They, understand social media and are often sometimes not on it as much as their parents are,
Yeah.
interestingly enough. But
Yeah.
so this AI is just going to be native to them. And the problem that can happen is if you over rely on the AI to do all your thinking for you, you will end up with a mush brain.
Mhm.
So you you um y- your job skills, even, even if you're otherwise educated, but if you mainly got through your education by leaning on AI to create things and come up with things for you and your answers, that's gonna put you at a huge disadvantage. The other thing
Mhm.
that is that bring at best, you be so maybe you become really skilled at prompting and, and so forth and have some knowledge in an area. It's gonna be mediocre at best if you don't know
Mhm.
how to use your brain. Like,
Mhm.
I have some highly trained GPTs
Mhm.
that, I'll just say they're, like, amazing. But I know enough to say, "What you just gave me is boring.
Mhm.
What you just gave me is all over the place.
Mhm.
What you just gave me is not factually correct.
Mhm.
What you just get, um, so that because it's only as good, like I said, you can get good prompts and you can kind of figure all that out.
Mhm.
But the people who are going to be the leaders are people who know how to use their brains
Mhm.
and know how to interact human to human,
Mhm.
because we
Mm.
still need that human to human
Mhm.
is a big, big piece of it. So that's my concern, um, going forward. And I know I'm not the only one who's thought of this. So I
Mhm.
don't feel like I have to take on the whole challenge myself. But I am working at I'm developing a program at a college right now, um, called Material Success Through Yoga Principles. And
Mhm.
it's based on a book by Swami Kriyananda. And we've also been talking about developing their online business program and having a course called like AI Proof Your Brain. And
Mhm.
there's also in education, and this big, has been going on the last few years is how do we make sure we're getting original work from students? How do we bring
Mhm.
AI in a smart way because it's here so they know how to use it intelligently?
Mhm.
So, I think really being having some awareness, having um, understanding and having activities that challenge your brain outside of the screen and the AI
Mhm.
world.
Mhm.
And having, making sure you have human connection and conversations where you're not looking, "What should I say to, my date?" "What do I say
Yeah.
next?"
Yeah. Well, and I think, like the human connection part is going to be huge in the future because, like, whether we like to admit it or not, we spend so much of our lives online right now that sometimes it's like you almost forget the real world exists, and it's like, wow, like there's a whole world outside of my phone, right? And so,
Yeah.
I think the human connection part is really going to be important, especially as people are just. What if they? I've read these studies, and something like 99% of the internet already is like just AI generated crap, and so it's like it also just becomes because as AI
Just
generates more stuff and then it searches more AI generated stuff and then it just like it revolves in on
mhm.
itself, right? And so just even finding genuine, true information on the internet is going to become that much harder because it's all just AI generated garbage, right? And as you said, like you can have the best prompt in the world, but sometimes it will just bring up absolute trash and you're just like these are all the mistakes, these are all the pieces of data that you didn't take into consideration, and these are all, so it's very, very and to your point, like, the ability to think critically about the answers that you're getting back for what you're putting in, it becomes really important because, and I think, even some lawyers, like, talking about professions, like lawyers have gotten in trouble because they're relying on answers from AI, and they're hallucinating cases that never existed, and so these lawyers are submitting this to trial as part of their evidence package, and it's like they're getting penalized because it's like you basically you're providing false evidence to the court.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's right, and that's what we need to especially train the young people, but even, whatever age, to understand that,
Mhm.
and, and also how to, detect it too, because like, some of these have been so kind of, egregious enough that it was easily found out, but, yeah, it's an interesting time in that sense,
Mhm.
and, and I don't we can't just put our head in the sand about it.
Mhm. Yeah,
Otherwise,
like
we just yeah, our brain will go turn to mush. Yeah.
yeah, right, and so I think that they're like, obviously, AI tools are amazing, if you use it as a tool, right? It's not a
Mhm.
replacement for critical thinking, right? And so,
Exactly.
and if you're using it properly as a tool, but still vetting everything that it's giving back to you, like it can take your work time from like weeks or months to like a day, which is really amazing in terms of efficiency. But it's again still making sure that you're the one who's in control and you're the one who's vetting everything.
Right, right,
Mm.
exactly, exactly. And yeah, and I think that's part of what leadership it looks needs to look like.
Uh-huh.
So one of the things that I talk to or hear on the others podcasts and so forth is about AI adoption. Is
Mhm.
that in companies and the larger companies, especially, or even the mid-sized ones, there's uneven adoption of
Mhm.
it, and and so you need a leader, whether it's a leader of a team or certain part, you need the upper uh, CEO level to be like, yes, go ahead and do it. But like in these
Mhm.
management situations, you need somebody who has really educated themselves on it
Mhm.
and can really um, be a leader to encourage others to adopt it.
Uh-huh.
So that they're not just ignored, like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I did the AI training on how to do that. I'm just gonna go back and do it the way I did it."
Mhm.
So that's been, that an issue with adoption is that kind of uneven leadership is what it boils
Mhm.
down to, whether at the top level or even in these, management level of, for adopting it. And, and so I do think that that is the other part of leadership role is, "Hey, let's not stop using our brains."
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, so now, you're in your job and this, using this AI has freed up your time. So now step back and where does your critical thinking need to be
Mhm.
activated,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think that's really important, right? Like learning to use it strategically, critically, ethically, all those things. And then also like implementing, I mean, as with any new technology that gets brought into any corporation, right? Like figuring out how to get the entire team on board as well, in a way that doesn't create too much chaos, I suppose. 'Cause a lot of the time as well, when you if you aren't thinking critically, like, you'll hand in a report or whatever, and it's like, you didn't think this through, and so, like, the ability to also explain what it is really important. Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So critical. And another thing too is that I've seen some of my colleagues who are actually, more technical in building because maybe they came from a software background and
Mhm.
so forth. And now they're learning the AI and they're have their own business now. They went from corporate, now they want to do their own business, or
Mhm.
they've maybe had their own business for a while. And like they've been in my program, they're like, so I'm trying to put together this and that. So this will happen and this. And it's taking me, a while to and I'm like, wait a minute, let's look at what is the problem you're trying to solve. And I've sometimes said, just hire a virtual assistant.
Mhm.
Your time is valuable, and it's gonna
Yeah.
take you so much time to do all of that,
Yeah.
whereas a virtual assistant, could do it, in 10 minutes
Yeah.
or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or some of these things are, it's like you don't have the volume yet to justify
Yeah.
spending time building it.
Mhm.
Wait, down the road, build out these bigger systems.
Yeah.
So, yeah, can we and I'm always just like, start with free, start with simple, and
Yeah.
build upon that.
Mhm. Yeah, and so I'm also curious, because I'm taking the Mind Valley AI course right now, right? And so
Yeah.
I got about halfway through and then I was like a little bit overwhelmed. So now I'm playing a little bit of catch up. But I'm wondering if you can kind of walk me through like what's your tool stack that you use for AI or like that you generally would recommend for entrepreneurs to use because like a lot of people think that AI is just ChatGPT, where there's like so much more than that. But I also find like so when it comes to like photo editing, there's so many options. And, sometimes like I have two or three tools that I'll use or whatever, but then it's just like not usable. Right. And so it's also figuring out how to create stuff that is actually usable. Right. Like mastering those prompts, but also just what are the tools that you need or not need, but that you can use. Because the one thing that I'm personally getting really overwhelmed by is how to connect all the dots. Right, and
Mm.
that's my big thing, like, so I'm going from chat to Canva to whatever, Gemini to all these different things, right, and all these different AI tools, and it's like, is there a way to incorporate them? You know?
Yes. Yes, yes, yeah. So I'm gonna pick up my phone here. So for editing photos, I find the iPhone is like one of the best photo editors for most things. You wanna
Okay.
zoom in, you wanna zoom out, you wanna filter, you wanna change the balance a little bit. If it's on your phone, I
Mhm.
there'll be use cases where you might need something more than that, but,
Mhm.
you if you have it and I know it's not just the iPhone, I know, the Google's phone is good with things like that as well,
Mhm.
but if you have
Mhm.
a good smartphone, that's
Mhm.
where I do a lot of my editing
Mhm.
of images, and you can also do that kind of some of the basic editing, like cropping, filters, light adjustment, things like that for videos too on your phone. It's just part of the app. So there's that. And then otherwise, I'll give you sort of a non-answer and then an answer.
Okay.
So then the non-answer is I treat this the way I do like my yoga therapy clients.
Mhm.
So I can kind of tell you like what I'm using and I can explain why, and I'll
Mhm.
do that. But I might not recommend this exact same tech stack to you.
Mhm.
And then the next person and the next person, because I
Mhm.
really wanna personalize it.
Mhm.
So, I feel like when I share my tech stack, I share it with, "Here's a place to start."
Mhm.
Or if you're doing something similar that I'm doing, start here. But I
Mhm.
really like having those one-on-one conversations so that we can dial it in. Or it's like you see like, "Oh my gosh, look at your tech stack." I didn't start with all of them, so maybe
Mhm.
you need just a little advice about which ones to adopt at which time,
Mhm.
or maybe like I said, sometimes you do a training and you're adopting a whole bunch of them, which ones to focus on first,
Well, and
which
the
ones to
thing
let go.
yeah, the thing for me is, like, I'm also doing this training and I'm like, "Okay, like, what's the use case for me?" Like, I to this day cannot understand why I would ever use Airtable. I'm like, "What is this?" Like, I don't know what it is, I don't understand what it's doing or why this is more efficient than just me using ChatGPT. I don't get it, But
Yeah.
that's probably because my use case doesn't require it, right? But
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it might be sometimes too that you're learning just enough about it so that if down the road you're change what you're doing in some way or your business expands in some way where you're like, "Oh, this is now a bottleneck where it wasn't before. This is a
mhm.
bottleneck and Airtable will solve it. So at least I
Mhm.
know I know there's a solution for it."
Mhm.
So some of the things you're learning, you might think of it that way.
Yeah.
The other thing when we were doing things again that I didn't see a personal use case for me or is like, okay, I just will hire somebody to do that. I
Yeah,
just
and
need
that's that's the other thing,
and
right? It's
that's
like no at least like you should know the technology so that you know enough that you don't know what you don't know and then you're like, "Okay, I'm gonna hire someone who does know to do it for me."
exactly, and that might be the best use of your time, but you can also go in and say, because 'cause I've had people like, "Oh, I don't think we can do that." I'm like, "Yes, it can be done." And if,
Mhm.
I'll go find somebody else if you're not gonna figure it out, you know?
Mhm.
Um, so it empowers you to have that kind of working knowledge. Maybe you don't
Mhm.
have the skill, but if you
Mhm.
understand things conceptually. So I also like it when somebody's doing a training, and even I did that, is I tried to do as much of kind of like the homework. Even like when there would be in class, we'd have to do is we were like building something, like in Make that was going to go to an email, was then going to go to the Airtable, and all this. And sometimes I'd get to a point where my chain broke because I did something wrong.
Mhm.
My first tendency is like, oh, well, I did something wrong. It's not going to work at the end. But
Mhm.
what I soon caught on is for me to learn though, is I kept doing the input. So I kept building as though I didn't have a broken piece,
Mhm.
so that then I, learned and understood, what I needed to understand to get there from that lesson,
Mhm.
even though when I said, "Push the button," it didn't work, and I knew it
Mhm.
wasn't going to, that I continued doing the steps as a training exercise.
Mhm.
So that's one piece of advice I'd give.
Mhm.
The other one is when I'm a big fan of when you have a group of tools, that, that are where, again, you're not going here, you're going there. So, for example, I use Kajabi for my website. I
Mhm.
use it for my courses. I use
Mhm.
it for, kinda like all-in-one business. It's my
Mhm.
CMR, it's my emails, my funnels.
Mhm.
It also has AI built into it.
Mhm.
So, it will also give me it'll transcribe my class. I
Mhm.
can take a video uploaded, or it might be the class that I have embedded on the site, and it'll say, "What kind of blog post would you like it to be made into?"
Mhm.
Do you like
Mhm.
us to edit it out and find Instagram snippets for you?
Mhm.
So it has, as well as you can even like, you can go AI 101 course, it'll give you an outline,
Yeah.
and just there's a lot of AI built into it. Plus, like say for all those, I'm not going like, now here's my email and I got to make sure the link's not broken.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
my website, my sign up page and all that.
Mhm.
So the bulk of my business, I do all on Kajabi.
Mhm.
And because of that, I now train people on, to get started on Kajabi, and I'm a partner with them.
Mhm.
So that's one of the ones that's on my stack because you can see there's
Mhm.
a lot of tech in that.
Yeah.
And and you can actually even make the images. Like if you're doing an email or creating a page, and you're like, oh, I need a picture of people in a business meeting. You can either choose to get stock photos or create an AI image right
Mhm.
there within Kajabi.
Mhm.
Um, I won't necessarily when you have the all-in-ones, if you're going for something very particular, very specific, doing it in an email versus maybe, I don't know, some kind of presentation, it doesn't always necessarily give you the best image. For example, I think
Mhm.
Midjourney does one of the best,
Mhm.
still and yet. But a lot of what I do, I'm like wherever I am, I use Gamma.ai
Mhm.
a lot, as well. I use that for presentations.
Yeah, that's a good one.
For Yeah, for presentations, for, also, social media, especially it's good at doing those LinkedIn slides,
Carousel?
carousels.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have several uses. So again, it does more than one thing, so I like that. And then, Vocable.ai. So I don't
Mhm.
know if Iman Ubu is one of your instructors
She
this
was,
year?
yeah, she was, yeah.
Yeah, so she may have talked about that a little bit, but again, she's got on there, it's like when you go in and you're writing, but it's very much hers is, very much for marketing, content marketing, so
Mhm.
what you're writing.
Mhm.
So it doesn't cover everything, but for that, she has all the different models in there. So if you're like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I don't really, I need something that's a little bit, more research oriented," I'll use the Claude model,
Mhm.
versus the Chat GPT versus the, or you can use the Gemini or
Mhm.
what you can select which model you're using.
Mhm.
And she's gonna be bringing in a lot more. I won't say right now on here,
Mhm.
but she again, that's a system that has quite a bit of all-in-one functionality in it,
Mhm.
that I like to partner with as well.
Mhm.
Um, and then if you're really getting into creating AI videos, I'm doing open art, partly because I landed there, but I do hear, like, a lot of people say Higgsfield. They prefer Higgsfield over open art, but,
Mhm.
I can go in there and, create a whole bunch of things. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like, different use cases, like, for my business, but then also, like, I had this old grainy photo of my great-grandparents, and we were going to a family reunion, and I wanted we're like, "Bring pictures to share."
Mhm.
So, I put that in there, and it slightly colorized it and
Mhm.
cleaned it up so you didn't have all the grainy stuff in between,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it was really cool to have
Mhm.
these, and then I was able to have it, have their names on it and have that to share. So that was a family use case,
Yeah.
of using it. And then, like I said, I have a whole Instagram account that's, totally AI generated,
Mhm.
um, and I've been using the open art. So, I'm trying to think so those are the ones I use really kind of like almost day to day or, each
Mhm.
week kind of thing. I think Claude is better for systems thinking, is better for kind of more technical, like, research oriented. ChatGPT is good for the creating the ideas, having that back and forth conversation. And it works better too if you have a GPT um, that's trained. So what you do is for people who might not know, you can train, or you can borrow, or somebody else can gift you their
Mhm.
trained GPT that's trained on specific ways to do things, specific documents. If you have writing, you
Mhm.
upload your writing, and you can give it each one a certain task, and it seems
Mhm.
to do better. So you have here's my um, optimization conversion
Mhm.
GPT. Here's my
Mhm.
marketing GPT.
Mhm.
Here's my accountant GPT.
Mhm.
Don't hand in your taxes using one like that. But I just try to think of some of the different ones.
Yeah.
They tend to, it ChatGPT tends to work better if you isolate and give a lot of direction for certain tasks.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you just kind of even in the projects, I still use you could do projects. So if it's like for my peptide patty, who's all AI
Mhm.
generated, I have a project folder for her. So all
Mhm.
the stuff's in there. But
Mhm.
when I'm, really working on my website or, some um, conversion optimization, I have different GPTs, for example,
Mhm.
for that.
Mhm.
Um, and then again, research. I'm going to be start exploring Claude more because um, like a lot of people, kind of got stuck on the Chat GPT. Sort of invested a
Yeah.
lot of time in there, but every now and then I go over there and I
Well,
hear a lot
and
of
that's
people
the thing, right?
like
Like,
it.
as soon as you, because they learn, right? And so every time you interact with it, you're training it basically on who you are and what you want. And so when it kind of behooves you to pick one and stick with it, right? And so, like, I have kind of picked like Chat and Perplexity are my top 2 ones that I
Mhm.
go to, and usually what
Yeah.
I'll do is I'll dictate, right? So I talk to mine a lot because
Mhm.
I cannot type with these nails, you know? So it's like I talk and I'll give it like a stream of consciousness, and then I'll just copy and paste it into both and then see what each of them spits out. And, sometimes Chat wins and sometimes Perplexity wins, and I'm just like,
Mhm.
"Okay," like one is usually clearly better than the other, but I also really like Perplexity because it was built specifically as a research partner, and
Mhm.
so it tends to have, I think, less hallucinations when it comes to finding actual data and research, and so that's
Exactly,
why I
exactly.
like it as well.
Yes, Perplexity is great for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Now here's the thing that we might not think of is because ChatGPT really isn't human, so you really won't hurt its feelings unless you told it to have feelings and
Yeah.
pretend hurt and pretend joy and pretend whatever. So if you're wanting to take some of your history, like say your writing style, you
Yeah.
can say to ChatGPT, I'm going to go to Perplexity or Claude or, whatever new thing is, um, for certain tasks. Write up a document that explains my writing style or whatever it is you want
Mhm.
um, to this other one,
Yeah.
um, and it will do that. It's not offended.
Yeah, that's true, right? And, like, I've also done that, right? So I've personalized my because at first when people were talking about, like, they personalize their chat, and I was like, "What? Like, how do you personalize your chat?" Right? Like, because first
Yeah.
I was just using the free version, and I was just, like, experimenting, right? But now I
Yeah.
upgraded, and I, like, totally personalized it. There's still some kinks that I want to get out, though, like, I don't I think the tone isn't always quite right either, so you kinda have to be careful
Mhm.
with that because it's also really hard to how do you describe vocal tone to a computer,
Mhm.
it's not
Yeah.
so easy. Yeah, I never thought of that actually, that I could just ask it to, like, download my entire history into a document and upload it.
Yeah, and if you tell it, because you might it would probably write it a little different for Perplexity versus Claude versus Gemini,
Mhm,
whatever tool you wanna use it for.
mhm,
Um, and, like, what's interesting too is, I'll sometimes say ask it sometimes I don't use it for what I'm using, Gamma for, Gamma.ia, but if I do use it, like, it knows how to format it. It forgot
mhm.
the other day, though, and it gave me slide 1 and slide 2 rather than supposed to do these 3 dashes in between.
Yeah. But
So sometimes you do have
that's
to
the
remind it
thing, right? Like,
using
talking
your head.
about critical thinking and using your head because I have those kinds of instructions, like, everywhere, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Don't do this, don't do that, always do this, always do that," and consistently, it forgets those little details, so, like, it is
Mhm.
not infallible, right? So
Right. Yeah, and if you use the 5 and the 5 thinking mode, it's better. Course,
okay.
it's using a lot more energy and all that, but especially if you are having something where you're wanting it to keep track of things
Mhm,
more carefully. I'll sometimes, say, say, working in the projects with the Peptide
mhm,
Patty
mhm,
Instagram account I have, um, before I would do anything, I'd say, "Review our most recent strategy and goals, and then tell me when you're ready for me to give you your next assignment."
mhm.
And then
Ah.
it would usually give a little summary of like,
Mhm,
okay, sometimes they're like, okay, I'm all set. But it's like, okay, I'm all set. I know I'm supposed to do XYZ. And sometimes I'd see right there where it was going off track. So it's
mhm,
like, yeah, it's mostly right, but we're really not doing X, we're doing Y.
mhm,
So and then you get uh, for that one, because it's in the project folders, that's how I started every time. I say,
mhm,
"Review our strategy, review
mhm,
by voice," whatever it is you need to make
mhm,
sure it's on top of, and
mhm.
then it will. You get a much better, outcome.
Mhm. Well, and one of the things though that I've also recognized with ChatGPT in particular, because it is the one that I have the most knowledge embedded in there, is that
Mhm.
like sometimes it doesn't think outside the knowledge box that you give it, And so when you're wanting like new information or like, hey, like let's come up with a new product, let's come up with a new angle, and it just consistently goes back to the old angle instead of like, no, I want to try like for example, like I am looking at planning an event and I was like, okay, I want it's going to be a thought leadership event. So like let's think of some thought leadership topics that we can talk about. And all of the thought leadership topics were like, oh, these are the things that we can draw from you and your brand and all of the things that you embody. And I'm like, that's not what this event is about. Like, I want thought leadership topics that are hot right now, So it automatically pulls from the data that
Mhm.
you've stored versus let's explore the web, like explore the world and what's going on out there in the world that is actually relevant to this event that I want to plan, not just like my little microcosm of what's already in here.
Right, so what I do with things like that is I don't tell it, the end result yet, like, I'm
Mhm.
planning this conference or this event. Instead, I'll say, "What I want you to do right now is go through," maybe I'll even give it a time period. Like I even had, "This news came out. Look at all the articles on this topic that came out yesterday and today,
Mhm.
and give me a summary."
Mhm.
or, look on, leadership events, what's new and innovative, what's happening, um, and and do that research and give me a summary. Then you'll
Mhm.
say, "What's missing?" You know, and you might even give us a little more direction saying, "Things are changing so fast. Are the, is what you've seen, are they covering all of the things a leader needs right now?"
Mhm.
And then so you can see that you haven't do the research without knowing the
Mm.
outcome of what you want yet.
Mm. I see. That's
Yeah.
very smart, actually.
Yeah, and I'll sometimes say, even if it does like I was having it, work on a bio actually the bio for this. So
Yeah. I
so I
haven't
had
written a bio for myself in, like, forever.
Right, right. So what I said is I said, so this is a real world example that, we
Yeah.
can all relate to, right?
Yeah.
So I said, "I'm gonna need a bio, an updated bio," because 'cause it'd been helping me update bios in other, contexts. So I
Mhm.
used that thread, so it already knew kinda how I wanted to update things. And then I said, "But first, what I want
Mhm.
you to do is I want you to look at Samantha's website." And I gave it, like, 2 pages,
Mhm.
um, and so look there, and then I wanna give you some other information. Well, it looked at your website, and then it spit out a bio, and I was just and they were boring, and I said that, I go, "These are boring, I told you to wait, I'm
Yeah.
gonna give you some more information."
Yeah.
And so wait for the information. It says, "Okay, well, it gave me, well, here's 3 other ways we could start that'd be less boring." And I just, like, ignored that, and
Yeah.
then I talked, 'cause that is the great thing, and there is a way to talk on your phone, like, on your voice messages,
Mhm.
if you have, because not all the platforms you can talk yet.
Mhm.
That's the other thing that is nice, it's built in ChatGPT can talk to it. So I do, yeah, so then I talked for a really long time, and I was like, and then I was like, "This is what's gotta be new, this has gotta be different, don't make it boring, we don't
Yeah.
want one more boring, bio
Yeah.
for heaven's sake." So,
Yeah.
now I've said that, people will look at it, they'll be like, well, that's a whatever, but should have seen the first one." Yeah. So that
So
was an example of, again, using my brain to think like,
mhm.
"Okay, well, that sounded polished." It sounded polished, but it wasn't memorable,
Mhm.
and it was accurate, everything that it said, but
Yeah.
I'm like, is something memorable is something that's really makes me not just another academic.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Mm.
um, we are getting very close to our time, but I know I wanted to and you wanted to talk about, conscious entrepreneurs and leaders stepping up, especially in this era of like AI and kind of global political instability and turmoil that we're experiencing. And you had mentioned earlier, kind of like the next phase of, what's coming. And so let's dive into that and how you work with, leaders in that way.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I didn't realize that over the last 40 years, I was kind of being trained for this time through my, tradition, and Paramahansa Yogananda, some people know from Autobiography of a Yogi, predicted this time. If you're old enough to remember the song, "It is the dawning of the age of Aquarius." He was
Hmm.
predicting this time. Human design even has a specific date versus a general time period,
Hmm.
which is like next year. Is like where everything comes to a head. And basically, what, in simplest terms, is we're moving out of an age where things were more fixed, form oriented, materialistically oriented, in the sense of form, dogmatism, etc., and moving into the age of energy,
Hmm.
which we can understand the age of energy. And it's the age of energy from everything from, you know, AI, what we're talking about. That's all happening, in an energetic way, but also uh, becoming more aware of our own internal energy and
Hmm.
speaking about energy. Just like I said, 40 years ago, when I said at a yoga studio, I never even mentioned the word chakra or energy center in your body. That would have like totally blown people away, right?
Hmm.
Whereas now it's in many circles is more common.
Yeah.
So and even like spiritually speaking, that's why there were monasteries, because to really develop yourself spiritually, the rest of the world was so not um, in that flow that you had to kind of seal yourself off in a monastery
Mhm.
to develop yourself. Whereas now that's changing. We have our householder yogis. We
Mhm.
have the ability to um, be married or have a job, have these other responsibilities, have kids, and grow spiritually. So that's one example. And it's the same thing with the business. It used to be such a solid thing. It's like we've got this structure and the company, and it has its rules and it has its way, and it's predictable, and we like this predictability because we know after 50 years then we retire, we get the gold watch, we
Mhm.
get whatever it is we need. And so it served its purpose, but that no longer works. That structure. And it's not happening for people too. People even who
Mhm.
are working the whole time, they're not getting the golden reward necessarily.
Mhm.
And so now as we're moving into an era that's more both about the individual, but not the individual in isolation. We still the community and just what we talked about, being one-on-one or having communities, like-minded people, or even not like-minded people, so we're growing um, and being open to other ideas, but really having that, ability to be more self-determined,
Mhm.
whether it's in our spiritual life, our business life, our family life, relationship life, our health, etc. And in my mind, we need all of those.
Mhm.
Those are all I see those all as pillars. And our strength comes from being having this foundation of our values, our beliefs, what's really matters to us, and then growing all the pillars so
Mhm.
that then we have the ability at the top to be able to be open and reach our highest potential.
Mhm.
And balance to me, just like in the yoga, it's like, it's like I'm on one foot right now. You can't see it, but I might look like this.
Yeah.
It's the act of balancing. And every now and then I'm like, ah. Stillness, right? But then the wind comes and I have to rebalance, and
Mhm.
that's how I see balance, is that we
Mhm.
have maybe have those divine moments of pure stillness, but the rest of the time we're juggling, we're balancing in that sense. And so that's the same thing with our pillars. We don't wanna just be materialistically, with our businesses and with money, uh, and our things, and our health, our relationships, all of those things are suffering.
Mhm.
Or we're so able to, like, well, I have great relationships and families, but I'm stressed out because I can't pay the rent.
Mhm.
I have these bills and things. We want to be able to do this in a more equitable way. And what's happening with this changing time that was being, as I said, predicted, is that it creates a lot of uncertainty because we're right now in the midst of that change.
Mhm.
And as human beings, the last place we want is uncertainty.
Mhm.
If somebody like gets a mammogram or a prostate result or something, and it was like, "Oh, we need to do more testing." That's kinda like what people almost feel like that's a living hell to not know, "Do I have a cancer or do I not?" And you have to wait for that next test. It's just, I just wanna know, and then I can deal
Mhm.
with it." So, as a culture, as a society, as a globe, as a world, we are now in that period of, well, what is it gonna look like? What
Mhm.
is happening? How are things going to land? And we can look at it in every area, politically for sure, but like the whole AI thing can be pretty scary. We can be optimistic. We can also politically think, well, we needed some change, but what's going on? We can, health also, same thing. It's like, well, we have all this science, but I can't afford to go to the doctor.
Mhm.
Um, all this disparity, all this uncertainty.
Mhm.
And so what we really need now are more people to just be in the moment, get grounded, do their practices. So, like, what my grounding practices are may not be what yours are or somebody else's. What I consider spiritual might be different, and other people might be atheists, but that they have values.
Mhm.
They have they're mission driven, or maybe they feel
Mhm.
purpose, and we
Mhm.
need to lean into that. We need to resource all of our aspects of ourselves. We
Mhm.
need to resource our material life, our spiritual values life. We need to resource our health, our relationships, etc.
Mhm.
And and encourage others to do so. And be a
Mhm.
shining light and know enough that we will get through this and that it is better on the other side. I can't tell you how long it will take, how disruptive it'll be. In fact, Yogananda said back in the 50s when he predicted this time, he said, how bad it is and whether we have World War III or not, is how he put it,
Mhm.
all depends on what humanity does between now and then and
Mhm.
the choices that we make. So
Mhm.
even though this, we're like, okay, is this kind of cosmic event that maybe on one hand we don't have control of as we move upward into this age of energy. It's a better age to be in. Um, that we're just in how disrupted it is to get from where we were to where we're going.
Mhm.
It's about our individual choices
Mhm.
and then our collective choices
Mhm.
and how that grows and expands. So I think the more that people will step up into leadership positions, whether it's in their own home, their own community, nationally, internationally, whatever stage people find themselves in, to step up into that and own your own practices,
Mhm.
own your um, abilities to be whole in all those areas. Even
Mhm.
if right now they maybe don't feel that way, own that they should be and can be.
Mhm.
And work on that and work on so we gotta do our own practice, but then we need to also be in community to support each other.
Mhm.
And you might find yourself in that position, well, no one else is doing this. They're just all woe is me, woe is the world. You do what you can. You're not responsible for other people making a change or not making a change, helping themselves or not helping themselves, but you can be the light. You
Mhm.
can show them the open door. You can be there offering it, and then not
Mhm.
be attached to whatever action or inaction they take.
Mhm.
And that will empower us, that will empower you as an individual. So, I'm feeling this more strongly as I talk to people, as I see what's happening, as you can tell.
Yeah.
I've been writing about this in some of my books and elsewhere and talking about it for some time, and for a long time, it was like in the future, so it was more abstract. But we're in the middle of it. And the good
Mhm.
news is we can be effective and make effective positive change in
Mhm.
ourselves, in our close circles and wider right now, even
Mhm.
though we're in the middle of it.
Mhm.
The, the other way I would describe it is that there's these big waves. Some of them are tsunamis, some of them are just these huge waves. And we can either build up our muscles, work on our balance, get our surfboard and ride the wave as it comes in, or we can just be helpless and that wave is going to just like knock us down and knock us down.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we have to be prepared for a series of waves.
Yeah.
So we might get some respite on the shore, but then we're going to be swept out again. And are we going to ride the wave? Or are we gonna allow ourselves to be knocked down over and over again? So that's my call is let's like all surf. I'm not a surfer, but let's all metaphorically go surfing together
Yeah.
and ride these waves and ride it
Yeah.
out and come out stronger.
Well, that's a really amazing message, and I'm so happy to have had you on the show today because that's really what the my show is all about, getting this kind of information, getting people's messages out there so that they can go into the world today like more knowledgeable, more prepared, and with the tools that they need, to kind of get to the next level or to embody those leadership principles. So, thank you so much for being here on the show.
You are welcome. It was my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity to be here sharing with you and with your audience.
So, as we wrap up, did you have any final closing words that you wanted to impart, or also after that, where is the best place for people to find you online if they want to connect?
All right, thank you. So I think the closing word is don't put your head in the sand. Don't pull the covers up and just wait for it to go away.
Mhm.
Be proactive in whatever way makes sense for you. I like to say, take what's your next best step, which
Mhm.
might not be the next person's or mine or somebody else's. What's your next best step? And do what you can. Um, and, I think that's the main thing. And then the second thing is you don't have to do it alone.
Mhm.
So even though we might, that image of we're have to be on our own surfboard, so we have to kind of learn some skills and have some strength and strategy and balance, we can do it together. And we can shout,
Mhm.
"You've got this," lean a
Yeah.
little to the left. Hey, watch
Yeah.
out. That's what's coming up around the corner,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. So you don't have to do it by yourself.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I think those are the two things in particular. Yeah, I think, those would be the 2 best takeaways is, be proactive, and you don't have to do it by yourself.
Uh-huh.
So, the way people can reach me is on LinkedIn. My name, Nicole DeAvilla, Nicole, DeAvilla, all one word, D-E-A-V like Victoria, I-L-L-A. That same spelling on Instagram.
Mhm.
Those are the I have more accounts in more places, but I think those are the 2 best ways to, um, with health, longevity, and business leadership, places to get a hold of me. And then I have my website and programs related to what we're talking about, in particular is the Nicole DeAvilla
Mhm.
International.com, and it has, make your business work for you. It describes the Kajabi, if Kajabi
Mhm.
is something was interested to you,
Mhm.
all of that is on there. And I do have a Live Longer, Happier site, but I think in this context, probably that would be a good place to start. And I have
Okay.
some books on,
Yes, you have some books on Amazon as well, and we're gonna put links to everything in
mhm,
the show notes so everybody will have access to all of your resources. So,
awesome.
thank you so much, Nicole, for being here with me today. It's been a pleasure and a really, really engaging conversation. You've lived such a full life. So, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and expertise.
Well, thank you, Samantha. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Joy to you.